shaped India. A piece of land, less than 3 acres, yet powerful enough to influence elections, to inspire movements, to trigger violence, to divide opinions, and to occupy India's courts for decades. For some, it was the birthplace of Lord Ram. For others, it was a historic mosque. For the nation, it became one of the most difficult questions independent India would ever face. Then, on the 9th of November 2019, five judges delivered a verdict that would change history. But what exactly did the Supreme Court decide? And why does the answer remain controversial even today? Long before courtrooms, long before politics, long before modern India existed, Ayodhya occupied a special place in the imagination of millions. According to Hindu tradition, this was the birthplace of Lord Ram, a prince, a king, a symbol of Dharma, a figure whose story shaped Indian civilization for thousands of years. For generations, pilgrims traveled here, prayed here, believed here. But faith alone would not be enough, because history would complicate the story. Around the year 1528, during the reign of the Mughal Empire, a mosque known as the Babri Masjid was constructed. What happened before its construction would become the subject of endless debate. Historians disagreed, politicians disagreed, religious groups disagreed. Eventually, judges would disagree. Yet, for centuries, the issue remained relatively localized. The storm had not yet arrived. When the British arrived, they found competing claims. Hindus worshipped near the disputed structure. Muslims offered prayers within it. The colonial administration adopted a familiar strategy, manage the conflict, avoid resolving it. Barriers were erected, spaces were separated, peace was maintained temporarily, but the dispute remained alive, waiting. Then came a night that changed everything. December 1949. India was only 2 years old. One morning, idols of Lord Ram were discovered inside the disputed structure. The news spread rapidly. To some, it was divine intervention. To others, it was an unlawful act. The government responded quickly. The site was locked. Legal proceedings began, and a local dispute became a national question. Government officials seated around a table, maps, files, urgent discussions. The property shall remain under dispute pending legal resolution. What followed would become one of the longest legal battles in Indian history. The dispute moved from courtrooms to public squares. Religious organizations mobilized. Political parties mobilized. Public opinion intensified. Ayodhya was no longer simply a place. It had become an idea, an emotion, a movement. And by the early 1990s, the country stood at a crossroads the 6th of December 1992. Then came the day that transformed modern Indian politics. The 6th of December 1992. The Babri Masjid was demolished. Millions watched. India stood stunned. Riots followed. Lives were lost. Trust was broken. The veil looked on. And the legal dispute became inseparable from the constitutional future of the Republic. Fade to black. Years later, the Supreme Court would describe the demolition as a violation of the rule of law. But first, the judges had to answer a fundamental question. Who owned the land? Contrary to popular belief, the court was not deciding whether Lord Ram existed, nor was it deciding which religion was correct. The judges were deciding a title dispute, a property case. The question was simple. Who had the better legal claim? Thousands of pages of evidence were examined. Revenue records, travel accounts, government documents, witness testimony, archaeological findings. The case became one of the largest evidentiary exercises in Indian judicial history. The archaeology debate. One report attracted extraordinary attention. The findings of the Archaeological Survey of India, according to the ASI. A large non-Islamic structure existed beneath the mosque. Supporters called it proof. Critics questioned the conclusions. The court adopted a cautious position. It accepted the existence of an earlier structure, but stopped short of declaring that a temple had been demolished to build a mosque. This distinction would become legally significant. The verdict, the 9th of November 2019. The verdict arrived, unanimous. 5 judges, 1 judgment. The court held that the Hindu parties had established a stronger claim over the disputed land. The land would be handed over for the construction of a temple, but the judgment contained another crucial finding. The placing of idols in 1949 was illegal. The demolition of the mosque in 1992 was illegal. The court condemned both acts. At the same time, 5 acres of land would be provided elsewhere for the construction of a mosque. The judges sought not merely to decide ownership, but to deliver what they believed was constitutional justice, legacy. For some, the judgment represented historical correction. For others, it raised difficult constitutional questions. Debate continues, perhaps it always will. But one fact remains undeniable. Few court cases have shaped modern India as profoundly as Ayodhya. Because this was never merely a dispute over land, it was a dispute over memory, identity, faith, history, and the challenge of reconciling all four within the framework of law. The Constitution does not erase history, it attempts to cover its consequences.